Yes, guys, welcome to the Game Week 26 Q&A. I thought this would be a good opportunity for me to go through any questions that you guys have. I know there's been quite a few big talking points in the last 24 hours with the injury news to Hojlund. Like nearly 500,000 people have bought him, and now we've got the news that he's ruled out for Game Week 26. So if you are a Hojlund owner, make sure you let me know in the comment section. We'll go through some replacements and what you can do with your teams, as well as going through all the other discussions like my transfers. Basically, a little bit of a deep dive into Hee-Chan versus Neto. We need to talk about which Wolves midfielder we should be buying, if any, and also a bit on captaincy. I think it's quite interesting this week what direction managers go for. I think the safe option is always Erling Haaland. With Bukayo Saka at home against a Newcastle team that conceded 2.02 XG per 90 over the last 6 games. I think there's an opportunity here maybe to go against Erling Haaland this game week. So as always, please do let me know if you are tuning in the chat. It'd be awesome to see who is about. This is your opportunity to ask any questions. Of course, we've got a bit of a later deadline on the Saturday. I believe in the UK it is around 1:30. I will double check that. So of course, wherever you are in the world, make sure you are aware that it's a little bit later, a bit more time for us to panic on the lead up to that deadline. So I'll try and do a deadline live stream tomorrow, but this is the chance for a nice chilled out Q&A. No kind of stress like we do on the deadline live stream. So Calvin, hope you're doing well. Mortal Technique, hope you're doing well. Cheekster, as always. Sam, I am. Evening, mate, and Morris. Who to start, Stupinan or Taylor? Well, anybody that saw the De Zerbi interview will know that he invited a Stupinan round for a little bit of tea. I don't know if that's going to indicate anything, whether he starts this weekend or not. For me, I think if you're in a position where you own a Stupinan, I think you just start him and hope for the best. It's not been a good time recently being an owner of him. Very much out of the blue, him being benched, coming on late. Not been great really, but for me, I think the upside is there for a Stupinan rather than Charlie Taylor. And again, I don't think there's any guarantees that Taylor comes straight back into the team. Yes, there probably is an expectation that he does, but I do think with a lot of managers, there's still not the certainty that we would like with someone like a Charlie Taylor, because I know there's quite a few out there who are looking to field him as their 11th man. And I can't sit here and say there's any guarantees that he does come into the team. So I would go for a Stupinan, and I would have Taylor as your first sub. Nico, hope you are doing well, mate. Yeah, I thought this would be a great opportunity for me just to answer any questions that you guys have, and importantly show you my first transfer. You may have already seen it on my previous video where I revealed my team and plans, but this is a good opportunity for me to bounce off some ideas with you guys, as well as answering anything that you want answered. So we're going to come on to that in a minute. As always, if you're looking forward to the stream, please do drop a like and smash that subscribe button. It'd be awesome to have you as a subscriber for the back end of the season. Anything we're checking out is going to be courtesy of Fantasy Football Fix as well. So we will check out the site because they have some unbelievable features that I just still don't think people are fully aware of right now. It is the GOAT site out there, and I want to kind of deep dive into some of the tools that they have available. So let us check out more Technique. That's awesome. Gifting that to Sammy. Awesome work. That is absolutely sick. Very, very kind. Fergal saying, good evening. Pains me to say with how bad he has been, lol. But, lol, I love that. But what is your opinion on Rashford this week as a punt? Well, for those that don't know, obviously the Hojlund situation, he is going to be ruled out for at least 2 to 3 weeks. So if you were one of those that brought him in, it's not good news going into this weekend. I'd imagine what we'll see is Garnacho either stay on the right side or move over to the left, Rashford down the middle, and maybe Anthony comes in on the right. But we could see some different things. We could see something like, for example, McTominay play as the number 9, almost a false 9. We could see Bruno Fernandes play there. So there's no guarantees right now where Rashford is exactly going to play. And I do think this actually hinders them with Hojlund being out as opposed to benefiting them. So I don't mind it. He definitely could do damage against Fulham, but I think there are more important transfers that you need to make this game week that could set you for the upcoming game weeks. Davis family saying start Taylor or Diaby. Both of those are massive rotation risks, but I don't really see Diaby starting, whereas I think there's a chance that Charlie Taylor does. So for that very reason, I am going to say Charlie Taylor. Diaby's been really interesting. I had him in my team at the start of the season where I felt he was going to be one of the most essential players at that price point, but just hasn't really come to fruition recently. So I do think he has been a disappointing pick. And for this game week, I think I'll start Charlie Taylor because I have no guarantees that Diaby is going to start week in, week out. And more trading saying wanted to see how it works. Yeah, I really am very not clued in with the membership stuff. I do need to make sure I make a conscious effort next season. I think it's just trying to manage the channel in itself is probably a bit too much for me right now. So trying to put that on top of it has been a bit of a disaster. But thank you so much for that, mate. Thomas saying, should I buy Hwang or buy a player with a guaranteed game in 29? If I bring Hwang, I will probably have to take a -12 in game week 29. Yeah, this is a really good question that I think a lot of people have on the tip of their tongues right now. Let's have a drink a minute. So I had this issue with my team. For those who don't know, game week 29 is going to be a big blank game week, but we won't actually know how it looks until the FA Cup games of play, which are going to be next mid-week. And that is going to be before the game week 27 deadline. So realistically, game week 26 is a really difficult one to navigate because if you want a guaranteed player for game week 29 and you don't plan on free hitting, you kind of need to buy an Aston Villa player because Tottenham don't play this week. Villa have guaranteed. It's a good entry point at home against Forest. So Douglas Luiz, Leon Bailey are good picks. My main worry of it is the introduction of the Europa League. I believe we're actually going to see some Europa League games between, I believe, game week 27 to game week 28. So is there any guarantees that Leon Bailey is going to play in the Premier League 80 minutes? I don't think there is. I think there could be some rotation, whether that be in the Europa League or the Premier League. And with them being in the knockout phases, the Europa League, I think rotation could happen for them. So I don't think Villa are as attractive as what they should be. And also, with the injuries that Aston Villa have sustained, is Douglas Luiz going to play a bit deeper, be a bit more of the first phase player? We don't really know the answers to that. For me, right now, even though I'm of the opinion that a game week 29 free hit is an option, I want to attack the fixtures that we do have in front of us right now. So what I want to do, let me put up the this here. This is perfect. So I'm going to bring up my team, what it's looking like right now, because as you can see, I ended up bringing Hwang in for Diogo Jota. Spoiler alert if you didn't see my previous video. But that clearly doesn't help me for game week 29 because he is a player that might not necessarily play. But of course, he has an amazing fixture this week at home against Sheffield United. And with the FA Cup fixtures, I think anything could happen with them. So for example, Chelsea, 3 days after the Carabao Cup final, play Leeds, who are flying in the Championship right now. Is there any guarantee that Chelsea win against Leeds? I don't think there is. Chelsea have struggled this season against lesser teams. We've seen that in the Premier League, but they step up in the big games. And I think Leeds is definitely a tricky game. And all of a sudden, if Chelsea lose that game, we suddenly have 4 assets available: Saliba, Gabriel, Saka, and Palmer. And the free hit in 29 suddenly becomes kind of irrelevant. And then you start saying to yourself, oh, why did I bring in an Aston Villa player like Douglas Luiz when now I don't need to free hit and I could have brought in somebody like a He Chan? So to kind of like conclude what I'm trying to say here, because I'm kind of going long-winded, you can bring in a game week 29 guaranteed player like a Douglas Luiz or a Bailey, but all we need is 1 or 2 upsets in the FA Cup. And the people who have gone for Wolves assets right now are the ones who are benefiting, because now you don't need to free hit and they don't need to either. And they've had the luxury of bringing in those players that have great fixtures over the next few weeks. So I'm attacking the game week in front of me. I don't know what's going to happen with the FA Cup fixtures, and I'm just going to let it be whatever happens and address that situation afterwards. And if it means I free hit in game week 29, so be it. That maybe falls well for my team. But also what I could do is wildcard in game week 27. I'm being very flexible, and I think that's the way to be right now. Sam, I'm saying, got a full 11, but bench is full of blanks. Fingers crossed for this week. I smashed the double game week, so don't want to drop now. Yeah, this is the big one right now, because when you have a good game week, sometimes you kind of start to plateau a little bit. So if you take a look at my game week history right now, I was on a bit of a roll around this period. Around game week 14, I thought I was back. I was around, as you can see, oh no, I'll tell you what, I was on a bit of a run. Game week 7, 1.1 million. Then we got ourselves flying to around 174, 163, and then I had a really bad game week 22, which basically put me back a couple of weeks. Now we're on track to crack the top 100k. So it is one of those where when you have a really good game week, it's really important just to try and either be very, very flat or a small green arrow. If you do drop back again, it really is a kick in the teeth, but you really shouldn't be down about it because you still have all your chips to play. And I think right now it is very much a case of all you need is that one player to go off and your rank starts to absolutely fly. It's very much that sort of season right now. Reese, hope you're doing well, mate. Jonah's saying, hey, Nacho, hope you're doing well. Do you think it's worth selling Jota for Douglas Luiz or Neto, or play Taylor? Yeah, so this is the big one right now in terms of the fixtures and what direction you want to go in. So if I bring up the fixture ticker maybe here, yeah. Okay, so hopefully you can see that. Let me know in the comments if you cannot see that too well. Just let me know in the chat a minute. Just put a yes, or if it's good, put yes, and we'll crack on. Because what I want to show you here is this is the fixture ticker for the next 6 game weeks. Yeah, 6 game weeks. So we can kind of get a bit of an idea on what direction we want to go in. So just seeing if it's okay for you guys. Okay, we'll crack on. We'll crack on. Okay, so with the fixtures that you can see here, as I discussed, with Aston Villa, they're great because they have Forest at home, Luton away, Spurs at home, then West Ham away, guaranteed. If you were to invest in Wolves, then as you can see here, you have 3 really good fixtures, Sheffield United, Newcastle and Fulham, but the Bournemouth game doesn't have any guarantees that is actually going to happen. So first of Jonah, if you just want a guaranteed player for these weeks, go for Douglas Luiz, but all it needs is an FA Cup upset, and all of a sudden, Wolves are back on the menu, and you've then got these fantastic fixtures here, as well as Bournemouth at home in game week 29, and all of a sudden, you don't need that free hit. For me, I am more than happy just to take the risk that the FA Cup results are a bit of a surprise, and then address it once we get to that point. So, it's kind of what you want to go for, mate. For me, Jota is a guaranteed sell. And I think Luiz and Neto, if it's a free transfer, are much better options than Charlie Taylor in your team. So I would look to move out Jota. And for me personally, I think Hwang or Neto are brilliant picks. And we will cover off those two in a minute. David's saying, is it then better to play Taylor or Diaby or take a -4 to do Nunes to Solanke this week? Yeah, so this is a really common question and one that I'm currently sat on right now. So first up, we need to take a look. Are the prices changing tonight? So based on Fantasy Football Fix's price predictor, players that are looking that could rise in price include Watkins, Haaland, Morris, Douglas Luiz, Tony and Solanke. Now Solanke is going to be really close here. As you can see, he's only 85% progress bar, but he is being bought 7.2% per hour, so he is flying right now. When we look at the players that are potentially being sold and going down in price, Diogo Jota is almost guaranteed to go down in price. But in terms of Darwin Núñez, it looks like he could, if he continues at this rate, fall in price. So this is a really interesting one this game week because obviously I'm in a very similar spot to yourself where I can field this 11 and be done with it. I've seen a lot of people in the comment section on previous videos say, why are you looking to do Darwin Núñez to Dominic Solanke when you could field 11? Well, first and foremost, there is no guarantee that this 11 are all going to play. Charlie Taylor hasn't played recently. He could just stay on the bench for Burnley. Ake has recently been benched for Man City. Is there any guarantees that he comes back into the team? I think the answer is no there, which is a bit frustrating. I think the rest of the players are pretty spot on. I'd be surprised if Phil Foden loses his place. But once again, we don't know the answer to that. He definitely could, under Pep Guardiola, be mysteriously dropped for one game. So the reason why I think Darwin Núñez as Solanke is a good move is mainly because of the understanding that you're going to want him back eventually. If we take a look at the fixtures for Dominic Solanke going forward, City at home is not a good entry point. However, City defensively are susceptible to conceding goals. And if they are going to concede, you're pretty certain that it is going to be Dominic Solanke who scores in that game. Afterwards, Burnley away, which is an amazing game. Then the double game week in 28. And who knows, they may even play in game week 29 if FA Cups go the way we want them to. So for that very reason, Is Solanke coming in instead of Charlie Taylor worth it for a -4? Maybe not this game week, but you know you want him from game week 27 regardless. And with his price skyrocketing after this game week, you can guarantee it. I think everybody is going to be moving to Dominic Solanke come game week 27. You're 1 week ahead of the curve. You've got any potential benefits from him in game week 26, and then you can start to address what moves you need to make from game week 27 onwards, whether that be prioritising maybe a Spurs player into your team, or maybe even targeting a Man United player, maybe. I'm just throwing out names. So for that reason, my conclusion is this. I do think Darwin Núñez or Dominic Solanke is worth the -4 if Charlie Taylor is your 11th man. If I had any guarantees that he was going to start, then maybe the -4 wouldn't be worth it. But because Solanke, you know you want him for the next 3 game weeks, I think we accept there is a transfer that needs to be done regardless, and taking in the -4 could give you the value this week. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Be really interested to know if anyone else is at that kind of point right now where they're debating whether to bring him in for a -4. I am one of those, and I'm currently leaning towards doing so. I just actually haven't pulled the trigger right now, but I'm very close. It is worth noting. Jack saying, if you have a player blanking, should you take a -4 to bring in someone that plays this week? Jack, again, it's all going to come down to what player are you looking to sell and what player are you looking to bring in. If it's a low ceiling player that doesn't offer any value beyond game week 26, then the answer would be no. But if it's, of course, a situation similar to what we said about maybe Darwin Núñez or Dominic Solanke, then yes, I do think the -4 is worth it for your FPL teams. So I want to bring my team back up on the screen just so we can kind of address what maybe we might do in future game weeks. Now, if you've seen my previous videos, you'll know that I haven't really been that concerned about looking beyond game week 26. And the reason being is because we don't know what's going to happen in the FA Cup. So, for example, looking at my team here, if I was to do the Darwin Núñez to Dom Solanke move, which I am intending to do, it is worth noting, he would come in for Charlie Taylor first sub, and my team would look like this for game week 26. Coming into game week 27, once again, my team would be pretty set like this. That would probably be my team for game week 27. Don't really think there's any guaranteed transfers that need to be made. Yes, I am missing a Spurs midfielder. I could make a move to bring in Son or a Richarlison. But again, the FA Cup results are just going to completely dictate what direction I go in. If suddenly Man United become game week 29 options, maybe I look to roll a transfer in order to pile in on Man United with that amazing Sheffield United at home fixture. That is a consideration. I just don't think I need to worry about it right now. I think we address game week 26, which is presented in front of us. And then after this point, we then know what direction to go in. Nico saying, has Jota fallen in price since the injury? No, I do not think he has. If we do take a look at here, and this is another great feature of Fantasy Football Fix. If we go into price change predictor and we go to recent price changes, we can see the last time Jota... Oh, no, it's Diogo, isn't it? The last time he fell in price was the 14th of February, and that was when he went up in price. We haven't seen a price change recently for Diogo Jota, but it does look like he will he will fall in price tonight. Noah saying, what's the thoughts on bringing in a Wolves defender? I think there's definitely value. We've already spoken about the fixtures coming up for Wolves being really, really good and a great entry point for this weekend. Now, if we take a look at the underlying numbers for Wolves midfielders in isolation, I'm going to do it based on per 90 minutes and expected FPL points, but we're going to get rid of some of those that haven't actually played any minutes because it's pointless considering those. So right now, Hugo Bueno is top of the charts at 394 minutes, but we got no guarantees on his minutes. So we're going to remove him out of the equation. I think Aït-Nouri is a consideration. I think Dawson and Kilman. Those are the only real ones that we're looking to buy right now. Now, in terms of an XG, Kilman leads the way at 0.09, Aït-Nouri at 0.07, and Dawson at 0.06. What we need to understand right now with the 3 options is we're not getting those goal-scoring defenders necessarily. We might get the occasional Dawson goal, but I don't really think there is much value in these players right now. I'm just going to extend the screen a little bit so you can see the numbers a little bit better. And a reminder, this is all taken from Fantasy Football Fix, which is, as I mentioned, the GOAT website out there, so make sure you do check it out. I'm just going to extend it like that so you can see the numbers on the screen. So hopefully you can see that okay. As I mentioned, Kilman, Aït-Nouri, Dawson, all okay picks. They're not going to light up the world, but I think realistically, Dawson at 4.5 or Aït-Nouri is probably the route that I would consider. But there's very little in it. Now, one thing I do like to look at is touch heat map for players, because that obviously gives an indication on where they are in their respective teams. So if we come down to Wolves and we bring up Aït-Nouri, is going to be the interesting one here, because when we compare it to someone like a Kilman, you can see here Aït-Nouri is on the left hand side, plenty of touches in the final third, but not necessarily many entry points into the box. Max Kilman, the only times he's getting into the box is from set pieces, obviously attacking corners, etc. So based on this right now, at similar price points, I'd much rather own someone like an Aït-Nouri than a Max Kilman. I think the upside is definitely there for him. So Aït-Nouri is a really good enabler at 4.5 million. He will be my pick of the Wolves defenders. Andrew saying, evening, hope you're doing well, mate. Darwin to Watkins and Richarlison Garnacho for a -4. Is it worth it? Okay, so I think Darwin to Watkins 100%, because it gets you a game in game week 29. A great player for this week, and Watkins is just such a fantastic option longer term. The Garnacho one is very interesting, because even though Richarlison blanks this game week, he plays in game week 29, and he plays, of course, in game week 27 and in game week 28. Garnacho, on the other hand, plays this week, but then has a potential blank in game week 29. So while you're gaining a fixture this game week for Man United, you may lose one in game week 29. I don't love the move, but of course, if you need to make that move in order to enable the Watkins move, then it is definitely a consideration for your team. But I don't think Richarlison is a desperate sell right now, unless you are really looking to field 11 this game week. Jack saying, I only have one defender playing this week, which is Gabriel. Should I bring in Alex Moreno for Pedro Porro? Again, very difficult one, because with the Pedro Porro situation, I do think he will return in the next game week or so. And of course, they blank this game week. They've had 2 weeks rest, Spurs, so I do think they're going to come in a bit more fresher than what we've seen of recent game weeks. I don't love the move, because Alex Moreno is equally a rotation risk. I know he is Unai Emery's #1 pick, but with the introduction of the Europa League, could we see some rotation in that Aston Villa team? Potentially. It is definitely an option for Unai Emery to rest some players. I'm just going to bring this up on your screens here. So, to conclude on that one, I don't mind the move, but you're going to want Pedro Porro back in your team, I think, if he does return to injury. Maybe look at a safer pick, like a Pau Torres. But if you're happy with the rotation of Alex Moreno, if there is some, then I think he is a better pick than Pau Torres. Nikhil saying, should he sell Kevin De Bruyne? Yeah, this is a really tricky one. I do empathise with those that have Kevin De Bruyne, because he should be an unbelievable option. But with the recent quotes from Pep Guardiola, it sounds like he isn't injured, but he isn't 100% fit for this weekend. And that really is a worry going into Saturday's kickoff. If I owned him right now, I would look at the fixtures that we have in front of us. So let's get the fixtures for game week 26 up. Put this up. So who would you buy from if you were to get rid of Kevin De Bruyne? Because I think game week 27 is a great entry point if you want to go for a Spurs midfielder like a Son to keep the money in that premium midfield role. But if I was buying this week, Arsenal could be a consideration. I do think maybe going from a Kevin De Bruyne to an Odegaard is quite a wise move. I think Arsenal, attacking wise, are improving, and we have seen a slight improvement in Odegaard as an asset as well. Even though I don't love the move, it does keep the cash in there. Otherwise, what you could do is downgrade Kevin De Bruyne to a He-Chan at Wolves, and that is definitely a consideration. But once again, then you have plenty of money available to upgrade the rest of your squad. You need to really have a think about, is that money in the bank going to benefit you in the longer term? Or do you keep Kevin De Bruyne, hope that he plays, and then look to sell him in game week 27 for Spurs' Son? Henrik is saying, are you done with the team and have you pulled the trigger, Henrik? So just to give you an idea, this is my team right now. I have sold Diogo Jota for Hwang. I did that last night. Sorry, He-Chan. And I'm looking to do Darwin Núñez and Dominic Solanke tonight. Even though I don't love the move for this game week in isolation because it's a -4. And also it plays against the defence in terms of Ake in my team. I have no guarantees that Charlie Taylor is going to play. So all of a sudden I might have 10 players. And I'd actually, in that case, rather just take a -4 and bring in Solanke, because longer term, I know Solanke is a player that I want in my team. He, of course, as I mentioned, have a great Game Week 27 fixture away against Burnley. And then, of course, they have the double in Game Week 28. So Solanke's coming in regardless. And if it is for a -4 this week, so be it. If I can field a guaranteed 11, I think it is worth it this weekend. And again, guys, if you are enjoying this stream, please do consider becoming a subscriber and dropping a like on the channel. Other way around, subscribe to the channel and drop a like on the video. It'd be awesome to have you around for the second half of the season. I will be doing a deadline live stream tomorrow, answering all of your questions as always. John Tower is saying, hi mate, who's the best Jota replacement? Hwang, Neto, Adingra, Gross, Douglas Luiz or Bailey? Okay, so Adingra I don't mind, but again, the introduction of the Europa League scares me a little bit for Brighton, and also that of Douglas Luiz and Bailey, and of course Pascal Gross. So I'm going to sit here and say Wolves, bit biased because I know I've brought in He-Chan. Now, looking at both, I put up a graphic here just to give you a bit of an idea on what kind of player you are buying. Now, if anybody watches Wolves, you'll know that if you just watch Wolves and didn't look at anything else, you'd want to buy Neto. Neto is the man in this Wolves team. He's too good for Wolves. He will go to a better team eventually. So if you watch the game, Neto is just driving that team forward. But what we do see sometimes is, like the touch heat maps here, Neto driving up the wings, really pushing the team back. But what we do see is He-Chan not doing much of the doggy work, but being there to tap the ball home. And we can see that with the underlying numbers. XG per 90 for He-Chan, 0.41, compared to Neto's 0.19. So a big discrepancy there. However, when we're looking at the chance creators, Neto leads the way. Expected assists, 0.32. He-Chan's 0.15. Now, of course, this data is taken over across the course of the season, sorry. But we've had the Asian Cup, so He-Chan's only recently come back from that. Neto coming back from an injury. So if these underlying numbers do continue, even though I think Neto is an unbelievable option, I wouldn't be surprised if his ceiling starts to improve as the season goes on. I want the goal scorer, and if we are going to continue to see these numbers, I think He-Chan is the pick, and we also expect him to be on penalties as well. So with Cunha out long term, somebody needs to pick up the mantle as the penalty taker, and we're expecting, and it is no guarantee, that He-Chan will be that player. So for that reason, I'm just going to go He-Chan as the best pick this week. Jack saying Hwang or Bailey for me. Yep, I think that's absolutely fine. Just remember the introduction of the Europa League soon for Aston Villa. Could we see some rotation from Unai Emery to make sure they focus on both competitions? Thanks, mate. We'll stick to the one transfer and avoid the points hit. That's fair. Glyn saying, who would you sell for Jota, Neto or He-Chan? Well, I'm quite biased. I brought in He-Chan, and hopefully that quick 1 or 2 minute discussion has helped you on which player you'd prefer for your teams. As I said, if this continues, these underlying numbers, and again, the Cunha injury may see Gary O'Neill slightly change up the influence of Neto and He-Chan, I want the goal scorer, and that right now is He-Chan of Wolves. Jonathan is saying Dubravka, Gabriel have covered off the team. These past 2 game weeks have been awful. I mean, for this week, your team doesn't look too bad at all. Of course, Darwin doesn't have a game, which isn't ideal. And of course, Taylor is a risk not starting. And with your bench, you obviously don't have anyone that can play. So, obviously, KDB has been so bad for me since the return. Sold Saka for him, and Saka's been killing it. What should I do with 2 free transfers? Okay, so with your team right now, of course, you could just take the punt and hope that KDB comes back in. You've got Diogo Jota. Diogo Jota to Saka, I'll just get it done. He's up against Dan Burn. I think that is just the move to make this week. Get Saka into your team. The other move then is what do you do with the rest of your team? I think Pau Torres could be quite an interesting move for your defence if you feel like you are not in a good spot. Otherwise, I think Darwin to Solanke as your other free transfer and view it as a longer term move is actually an okay move as well. Noah, are you planning on bringing Salah back? Not right now. Obviously, carrying the injury, recent quotes from some accounts out there suggest that he is in rehab training and maybe back on the bench for the Carabao Cup, but that's not ideal. So I actually want to see Salah back to full fitness before even considering paying 13 million for him, because it's so much money. It really is going to change the complexion and the structure of your team that I need to know that I'm buying a player that can play every single minute of every game. And right now, clearly, Mo Salah isn't that player. Now, when we take a look at the fixtures for Liverpool, we need to remind ourselves that they blanked this week. Forest away, great, but no guarantee Salah is back. So I'm going to avoid him for game week 27, most likely. Yes, Mo Salah does well at home against City. Historically, I don't want to bring him back in for game week 28 personally. Game week 29 is a very likely blank game week for Liverpool versus Everton. So realistically, game week 30 onwards is when we need to get Mo Salah back in our teams. Brighton at home, Sheffield United, Man U, Palace, an unbelievable finish to the season. And I do think if you're not already, a wild card around that period could be a really powerful time to restructure your team and bring in those players like Mo Salah and maybe even the Haaland Son triple up that we did at the start of the season. I just want to bring up my team once again. I haven't made the Solanke move, but I am planning on doing it tonight for those that are wondering. Juntao saying, are we overlooking Son? Maybe, but again, not playing this week. They've got a 2-week rest. I do think that they are going to return to a better form of themselves after this break. I think they needed it. I think they needed James Maddison back to full fitness. And yeah, I think Son's going to be back on the radar from game week 27 onwards. Davis saying rank these moves from -4 in order of preference. Diaby to Hee-Chan, love it because Diaby is not to play. Nunes to Tony, don't mind it, but preferred by Solanke. Nunes to Solanke, or I go with A or B. I can do Solanke in game week 27. Okay, so I think Diaby to Hee-Chan is for a -4 already, right? So for that reason, I would do Diaby to Hee-Chan, and then I would do the Nunes to Solanke move the following week, because that would be a -8 otherwise if you just do both. KZ is saying, who should I transfer in, Bowen or Douglas Luiz? Bowen is a punt right now. He is a fantastic option historically, but West Ham right now are really struggling. If we take a look at the underlying numbers for Bowen, okay, so Bowen's numbers here per 90 minutes. Over the course of the season, 0.37 XG, 0.13 expected assists. Decent numbers. However, if we look, let's say, what have we had? We've had 25, 24, 23, 22, 21, 20. Let's do 19. It's a decent period to be looking at. I mean, the numbers fall off a cliff. 0.16 XG per 90, 0.14 expected assists per 90. In terms of big chances, we can see here 0.14 big chances per 90. Really poor numbers. Now, in terms of fixtures coming up for West Ham, they're decent. You can see them middle of the pile here. Brentford at home, not a bad entry point at all because Brentford defensively are really poor. Everton away, tough game. But then they have Burnley at home the following week and a guaranteed fixture in game week 29. I don't mind the Bowen move. Of course, the problem with it is that you are kind of just making the assumption West Ham return to some sort of form. Based on the numbers, there's no way that we can sit here and say, I am bringing in Bowen because I've seen something that I like the look of. It is massively a gut feeling, but the fixtures are there to attack, and I do like him as a differential. Douglas Luiz is exactly what we talk about. Penalty taker, set pieces, very low XG per 90 when we take penalties out of the equation, but guaranteed minutes and a fixture in game week 29. So I don't mind Douglas Luiz at all. Will saying, been looking at Antonio for a punt. What do I think? Don't love it. I don't love it at all. Antonio, with the forwards that we have in the game right now, Solanke, Watkins, Haaland, Tony, don't think we've been going there at all. I think it's just a waste of a forward spot. John saying got Flecken and Dubravka suggestions to upgrade. I think Bournemouth's Neto is the route that I would go for. If you can also accommodate that with a player that has a guaranteed fixture in game week 29. So I believe Flecken plays in game week 29. Maybe selling Dubravka, bringing in Neto of Bournemouth and playing Flecken this week. And then maybe having somebody like a Neto in the team for the Burnley Sheffield United game. Again, I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a behind the curtain look at Fantasy Football Fix here, because again, it is just the best site. So what we can do here is we can actually look at the rotation of two teams. So let's say, for example, you wanted to know what the Brentford and the Bournemouth rotation looked like if you were to have a goalkeeper. Well, we have it here. What you could do if you were to go for Flecken plus Neto is you start Brentford's keeper Flecken in game week 26. You then play Neto in the following 2 game weeks. You then play Flecken in game week 29. And then you would have a run of Neto between game weeks 30 and 32. Again, this is why Fantasy Football Fix is the best around. Unbelievable tool. You can do this with all sorts of things. You could have the defenders all covered off and know which one to play each week. Is pretty sick. Sandra's saying, taking Saka or He-Chan, Saka every day. I know He-Chan is the talk of the town right now, but if you don't have Saka, he is the main target for you. He is in fantastic form right now. Realistically, the reason why people are bringing in He-Chan is just because most people have Saka right now. So he is now the next best midfielder to buy. Calvin saying, might just do Richarlison or Jota to Hwang and Adebayo to Solanke. Yes, I don't mind that move. Obviously, the priority is you selling Jota over Richarlison. Richarlison still offers value. Jota gives you 0 value over the next month. So you've got to be selling Diogo Jota. And Kay's saying, Nacho, what do you think about Pau Torres? Yes, he would be my pick of the bunch from Aston Villa. I really like Alex Moreno, but with Luca Digne sat in the wings waiting to come on, there's no guarantees of minutes for Alex Moreno, even though I do think he is Unai Emery's #1 pick. For me, Pau Torres just ticks all the boxes of guaranteed game time over that period. But of course, a lower ceiling because he doesn't really offer any attacking returns. Is Solanke essential for game week 27, or you think it's okay holding till game week 28? Well, when we talk about essential, we need to look at the players that you'll be selling for him. So if we take a look at game week 27 in isolation, because that's kind of the discussion right now. Okay, so we're talking right now about who you'll be selling for Dominic Solanke. So you're not selling a Burnley, Everton forward, Arsenal forward, Spurs forward. Villa, you're not going to be selling Watkins for Dominic Solanke, of course. Brentford, Tony to Solanke might be a move that some managers are considering. Tony at home against Chelsea or Solanke away against Burnley. I actually don't think it's a terrible fixture for Ivan Toney at all. And we could see a world where he does outscore him, but I think you would prefer to have Dominic Solanke. If we take a look at the other forwards in their respective teams, Isak at home against Wolves. Again, I don't think many people have Isak now. Fulham, nobody has. Liverpool away against Nottingham Forest. Now, this is the big one, because if you don't make the Darwin Núñez to Solanke move this game week, you're then going to come into game week 27. If we get news that Darwin Núñez is fit and available for Nottingham Forest away, maybe holding Darwin Núñez for Nottingham Forest and then bringing Dominic Solanke in for game week 28 is the route to go for. Now, the one thing I will say is this. The price of Solanke is going to fly up over the next week or so. So if you postpone the Darwin to Solanke move in game week 28, I think Solanke's price could go up 0.3, 0.4 million. So you are going to pay a bit more of a premium for him just because a lot of people are going to be targeting that Burnley game. But I think that's the real deliberation right now. I think Darwin to Solanke in game week 28 is a good move, but just know that he's going to be a lot more expensive. And even though Darwin Núñez has the good fixture of Forest away, I think I would pull the trigger and bring in Solanke for him that week. Andy's saying sell Richarlison or Palmer to field the full 11. Andy, I would want you to hold both of those, because after this game week, both have really good fixtures, and then we'll know from the FA Cup games whether Chelsea blank or not. If they don't, and the way they won't blank is if Chelsea lose against Leeds in the FA Cup, then all of a sudden you've got Richarlison with a great fixture in 29. And even though Palmer's away against Arsenal and it isn't great, it's a player that you have that you can field, which means you might not have to free hit that week. Eddie's saying would go Odegaard or Hee-Chan for Palmer. Areola, Gabriel, Trippier, Walker, Stupinan, Saka, Garnacho, Foden, Watkins. First I'll say to you, do you need to sell Palmer? If you do, then I'd be very tempted just to go for Hee-Chan, knowing that you can then use the funds from Trent later on to upgrade other areas of your team. But of course, Odegaard is a great pick, but I think Hee-Chan offers great value with the penalties and a home game against Sheffield United. Sokka saying any keeper suggestion that might have a double game. Unfortunately, we don't really know what them weeks are going to look like right now, so I'm going to hold off on answering that one until we have a bit more information later on in the coming game weeks. I do apologise, I just don't have that news right now. Will, the reason why I having a punt on Antonio is because I transferred in. Oh, dude, I do apologise for that. I can't afford Watkins or Tony, and I've already got Haaland and Solanke back starting and a nice fixture run. You can go there if we take a look at the numbers for Antonio this season. I mean, per 90 minutes, XG per 90, 0.19, expected assist, 0.11. Just doesn't excite me. Doesn't excite me at all. I get it, though. The price point, obviously, is a temptation. Antonio is priced at 5.7 million. What can we get you? Adebayo is obviously an injury risk. Okay, so I get it. Antonio probably is the only real route that you could go for right now. I don't love it, though. It is worth... I'm not huge into the move, but I get it. If you do want to go there and you think that you don't want Watkins in your team, which I do think is a bit of a problem, then you could go Antonio. I just don't love it. Thoughts on Alvarez? Jack, I don't mind it. He's played every minute for Man City. Pep clearly loves him. Just don't really think it's the entry point right now for him. Taking Saka, Hee-Chan, or Bailey, I would rank those as Saka 1, Hee-Chan 2, and Bailey 3. Testimony saying, what's to do with Stupinan? I think I'd play him this week and hope for the best. If you're going to sell him, I would go for more of a traditional defender that you know is going to play guaranteed minutes, and that's going to include someone like a Gabriel at Arsenal or a Pau Torres at Aston Villa. Taking Saka or Watkins for -4 or one of them for no hit. Let me know in the comments who you're selling. Let me know who you're selling. It'd be interesting to know. Jack, do you think Senesi is an option? Yes, absolutely. I think Senesi is a great pick from game week 27 onwards, and one that I think a lot of people are going to be attracted to go to if they're not going to be making a goalkeeper transfer over that period. For those who don't know, Burnley away and the double game week makes them very, very appealing. Will saying, fair enough. Cheers for taking the time to properly explain. Subscribe, mate. Thank you so much, mate. I hope it has given some advice. Obviously, if Antonio scores a hat-trick and you haven't brought him in, I do apologise. But I like the differential shout. Sometimes I'm guilty of it. We go down a little bit of a traditional kind of template route, but sometimes the template is a template for a reason. It doesn't make players a bad pick just because a lot of people are going for them. Sometimes the reason why people bring in the same players is because they are just the best players sometimes. What we are going to do, I think I'm going to have to wrap it up in a minute. As you can hear, my voice is all over the place. So I'll give you guys 2 minutes to put in any last minute questions, and then we are going to wrap it up. I'm going to be doing a deadline live stream tomorrow, so I'll answer any further questions. In terms of captaincy this week, this is the really tricky one. Haaland versus Saka for me. That is the route that we need to discuss. I'm just leaning towards Haaland. Even though he has been a bit of a troll over the last few game weeks, his underlying numbers were still fantastic. And I don't really see myself going against him. However, Saka versus Dan Burn could be a field day for both Arsenal and Saka. And if you want to go for Saka, I think there is no better time to swing against Erling Haaland with Bukayo. I just know what kind of manager I am, and I am going to be boring and go for Erling Haaland. It is boring, I know. So just saying, taking Saka and Watkins for -4, or one of them for no hit, I'm selling Jota and Darwin. Okay, so you know Jota is out long term. So for me, Jota to Saka is just a no-brainer. You get him in because game week 27 against Sheffield United is an incredible fixture. Yes, they could blank in game week 29, but the value of Saka over the next 3, I think, is imperative. And I would do the Darwin to Watkins, yes. I'll just get it done. I'll take the -4, kind of take your medicine a little bit, but know that you've got fantastic players for at least the next 3 game weeks. I was thinking Watkins captain, don't mind it. I think it's good. The problem with it isn't a penalty taker. Haaland and Saka are, and I think that's a really big factor when we are looking at captains. Man City could play terrible. Arsenal could play terrible. Both of those could play terrible. All it takes is a penalty, score in the bonus points, happy days. Watkins unfortunately doesn't have that luxury. So, I think we're going to wrap that up, guys. I do apologise, but I was aiming for around 50 minutes and we're going around that mark now. So, we're going to wrap it up. As I said, if you have any more questions, please do fire them off in the comment section of this video or on previous videos, and I will be sure to get to them. I'm going to be back for a deadline live stream tomorrow, so make sure you are subscribed if you're not already. It'd be awesome to have you around for the back end of the season. That just even say have a great evening wherever you are in the world, and I'll see you